Welcome to Horse Council of BC's Emergency Preparedness for Horse Owners Module 2, Response. There are two types of emergency events. One where you are more likely to have some warning, such as overland flooding and wildfires, and ones you have no warning, such as motor vehicle incidents and barn fires. This module is going to be broken into two sections: in the moment events, and events that there is some level of warning that is going to occur. With Section 1, we are going to begin with some general guidance that applies to all situations. First and foremost, never put yourself in harm's way. Your safety and the safety of others around you is most important. Do not become a secondary victim, and do not get caught up in the moment. Remain calm. Your horses will pick up your energy if you are panicked or nervous and become fearful themselves. Frightened animals are dangerous animals. No matter how well you think you know your horse, they are still unpredictable, especially in emergency events. Respect authorities and provincial directives. Do not drive on closed roads. Evacuate when directed to evacuate. Do not go back into evacuated areas until you are told it is safe. Do not attempt rescues on your own. Call the local fire department for assistance and always have someone with you and aware of your location. The first emergency event we are going to cover is barn fires. They are one of the more common threats to any farm and are a challenging structure fire for first responders. Barns are highly flammable buildings that are often filled with highly combustible items. These structures go up quickly and burn fast. The vast majority of barn fires occur late at night or early morning hours, often going undetected until flames are showing. Due to the location of the barns in rural areas, by the time the fire department arrives, the barn is quite often fully involved. It only takes 3 to 4 minutes from when the fire starts for the barn to be filled with smoke. It takes less than 6 minutes to be fully engulfed. Be mindful that it'll take an experienced person approximately 1 minute to halter and lead that horse 100 feet, and that is if the horse cooperates. Once the barn roof is on fire, animals should be accessed from only the outer walls. This can be done by using existing doors or possibly cutting a large hole in the side of the barn. Do not go inside the barn. The roof may collapse. If you have access to the power shutoff outside the barn, shut the power off. If you are able to access horses close to the doors in an area of the barn that has not started to burn yet, go quickly, removing the horses closest to the doors first. Do not go into the middle of the barn, as this area puts you at greatest risk of getting trapped and exposed to smoke. If your stalls have exterior doors that open into paddocks or pens, access the stalls through these doors, not from the interior of the barn. If the fire is active in this area of the barn, open the doors to allow the animals to leave on their own, but do not enter the barn. Panicked animals normally will not just leave a barn on their own. You must contain them once they are removed from the barn. They can be contained in a corral, pen, pasture, or even a trailer to keep them safe and from going back into the barn or from fleeing. All horses should be hosed down after removing them from the barn, as they may have smoldering embers in their hair. Do not remove nylon blankets from a horse that has been exposed to fire, as the blanket may have melted to the horse. Even small embers that may have landed on them could have caused the nylon to melt. To safely remove the blanket, slowly run your hand up between the blanket and the horse, looking for any areas where the blanket may have melted. If you come across a melted area, you will need to cut around the melted part and leave it for a veterinarian to remove. The leading cause of death in barn fires is smoke inhalation. All animals exposed to smoke and fire should be examined by a veterinarian for burns and smoke inhalation, even if they look fine. Burns are very painful and horses must receive immediate veterinary attention. Do not try to treat the burns yourself. We will cover burns more heavily in the upcoming first aid section. Hundreds of horses are transported on BC highways on a daily basis. And just like other vehicles on the road, vehicles transporting horses are at risk of being involved in a motor vehicle incident. If you are involved in a motor vehicle incident and able to do so, check the condition of any of your passengers and other people involved in the incident. Human health and safety is your first priority, and they will be the priority for attention at any accident. Call 911. Provide your location and let them know there are animals involved and how many. You will also need to let them know if there are any horses loose on the road, and if they are, where are they and what direction are they heading. If there are loose horses and you can safely do so, try to catch them by slowly and quietly approaching them. The most quiet of horses can revert back to their natural instinct to flee or fight, even with their owners. Once caught, walk them slowly and do not let them get ahead of you or behind you. You should always have them beside you and within your line of vision. And make sure you move and hold them as far away from traffic as possible. If the horses are still in the trailer, leave them there until first responders arrive on the scene and the area is secured. There is an increased risk of them getting loose and hit by a vehicle if they are outside the trailer. Many horses have been injured or killed after an accident because they were removed from the trailer and got loose. Do not enter a trailer to check on your horses. Wait until first responders arrive and allow them to safely access the trailer and the animals. You can quickly become entrapped or the animals can strike out due to fear. Do not become another victim on scene. Be respectful of first responders, as they have command of the scene. You have no legal authority at an accident scene. Their first responsibility is to human safety and property protection. You must follow all directives they give you, including if they ask you to step back and let them deal with your horses and the extrication. Many first responders across British Columbia have been trained in livestock emergency response. We are now going to discuss thunderstorms. Thunderstorms often bring with them lightning strikes and strong damaging winds, putting your animals at risk of injury or death. They often develop with limited warning and are unpredictable in their path and severity. Being struck by bolts of lightning and injury and impalement by flying objects are the most likely threats to animals during thunderstorms. Animals will often take shelter under trees during a storm. which is one of the more common locations that you find dead animals afterwards. Other locations that animals are often found after being struck by lightning is around bale feeders and along fence lines. If you know a storm is approaching and you have the time, move the animals to the safest area of your farm. This may be inside a barn or closed off in a shelter or lean-to. It needs to be an area that keeps them away from any objects that may become a projectile during high winds. It needs to be away from any trees that they may try to stand under or ones that may fall over in the winds. It should also be away from things like metal bale feeders or anything that would attract a lightning strike. If you have a pasture or paddock that is lower than other areas of your farm, they can be moved there also. As soon as the storm passes and it is safe to do so, take inventory of all your horses to make sure that all animals are still where they were before the storm struck. Catch and contain any animals that are loose, and inspect all your horses for injury. You may need to set up a triage area if you have multiple horses with injuries. Contact your veterinarian immediately for directives from them on how to proceed. The most common cause of farm building collapse is heavy snow. The western side of British Columbia in particular has very heavy wet snow that can put barns at high risk of collapse. If your barn, stables, or arena has collapsed and there are animals inside, call 911 immediately. Inform them if there are any people inside the building and how many horses you have inside. Provide your address and any special details they will need to find your barn or stables, such as if you have more than one driveway or access to your barn is different than your house. Do not enter the collapsed building. As much as you want to try to rescue any people or animals, a collapsed building is very dangerous as it is at risk of further collapse, fire, or explosion. When first responders arrive, inform them if there are any people inside and where the animals are located. Also let them know where the power shutoff is and of any other known hazards such as propane tanks or dangerous animals. If there are any loose animals that have escaped from the building, approach them quietly and calmly to catch them and take them to a safe, secure location. If there are injured animals, you will need to contact your veterinarian and then set up a triage area in a safe location. Flooding is a common event in British Columbia and will manifest as a flash flood or a more gradual overland flooding. Both of these can be devastating to your facility. We will start with a few water facts on horses. All animals, including horses, have the ability to swim at birth, except for chickens. But horses need full control of their head when swimming. Horses can withstand water up to their bellies from 48 to 72 hours. And all livestock have a natural instinct to move away from floodwaters, and they would generally seek higher ground if possible. If flash flooding occurs, leaving no time to evacuate, move the animals to higher ground if possible. Do not lock them up in stalls, paddocks, or corrals that are at risk of flooding. And do not put them in an area where there are items that they can become entrapped in or injured by, if the rising water covers them. If overland flooding is threatening your property, move the animals to another part of your farm that is on higher ground or a pasture that is not in the flood zone. Make sure all fences are in good repair and the animals have access to feed and water. And you want to make sure you will be able to access the property to check on them. Shut off all power to any barns that may become submerged to prevent fires. Water rescue is the most dangerous of all technical rescues. If animals require rescue from water, there must be a risk assessment performed and only undertaken by individuals trained in water rescue. Do not try to rescue your horse from the water, including if they have broken through ice. Wait for first responders. Horses seem to have a special talent for becoming entrapped. They can get trapped in equipment, in ditches, down embankments, in mud, down wells, or fall through ice. If your horse becomes entrapped, first call 911 and seek assistance from the fire department. They are trained to respond to emergency events, and many have been trained in livestock emergency response, so they are able to safely and effectively deal with animal rescue. They will also have specialized equipment or access to it, possibly including a livestock emergency response trailer. Often, when an owner tries to rescue their horse, the horse will become more entrapped, injured, or the owner gets injured. While waiting for the fire department to respond, you will want to keep the animals calm. You can do this by covering their eyes and plugging their ears. You will want to keep people away from the horse, as horses perceive people as predators and may become more frightened. Always be alert, even if it is your horse. A horse can unexpectedly strike out with no warning, no matter how quiet the horse normally is. BC is very fortunate to have livestock response trailers located within the province. The trailers are stationed in the Fraser Valley in East Kootenays. They are available to support local livestock producers during emergencies. They provide specialized equipment to capture and contain animals and support their movement out of dangerous situations. Each trailer is equipped with livestock rescue supplies such as horse and cow halters, sorting and corral panels and tools, as well as supplies for producers like a first aid kit, safety protective clothing, and a fire extinguisher. The trailer's mobile capabilities will allow the units to be deployed to other regions during emergencies when needed. The pilot is being led by the Emergency Livestock Response Committee that was formed in 2018. The committee is hoping to build upon the success of this pilot with additional trailers deployed throughout the province in the future. When working around a recumbent horse, which means a horse that is lying down, always stand and work along their spine. Working along the belly or near their legs puts you at high risk of getting kicked. Yes, they can kick you when lying down. Do not try to get a horse up by pulling on their head. They need control of their head in order to stand up. Do not drag them by their heads or their legs. You can further injure them. And make sure you have a halter on them for when they stand up, as you cannot control a horse with a bridle. We will wrap this module up with a quick review of the key points. Never put yourself in harm's way. Your safety and the safety of others around you is most important. Do not go into a burning barn, as the roof may collapse. For motor vehicle accidents, leave your horses in the trailer until first responders arrive. For thunderstorms, try and move animals to the safest area of your farm. In a building collapse or an entrapped animal, call 911 and wait for the fire department to arrive. And in flooding, do not lock the animals up in stalls, corrals, or paddocks, as they may drown if the floodwaters come in. We have reached the end of Module 2. You can now proceed to Module 3, Response Part 2, where we will talk about evacuation and animal health.